Hey little cuties, demibobemi here and welcome to another Sims 4 speed build. So as you've probably noticed, this is not a castle speed build. And I'll tell you why. So I'm actually currently still working on it. I don't often build large builds, and I think I heavily underestimated how long it would take me. And not to say that oh, I just did this build because it was quick and easy, but I have an easier time building smaller builds. And I believe it was Shadman's Shack, I think is the username. He, I'm going to assume is he, or she, I don't know, had actually requested that I do a modern build, and I've been really into this rustic modern thing lately. So I thought, you know what a perfect time to do that. And it's kind of nice just to build something and then be able to complete it in one sitting. You know what I'm saying? Just sort of like the completionist kind of a deal. And I guess to talk about the build a little bit. So again, I had a kind of rustic modern thing going on. And I thought, how perfect would it be to have it set in the vacation world, Granite Falls. I tried experimenting with the terrain tools, and I was pretty certain that, you'll see this front part here, I put stairs on, and I was fairly certain that it was routable until after I uploaded the build to the gallery. And then I took all my screenshots, and I had Sims in there so I could take nice, pretty good screenshots. And I realized they weren't actually able to walk up that front part. I'm not super familiar, as I'm sure most people aren't, with the terrain tools. You will see later I'll put a staircase on the back side of that hill that goes to that beachy area. And they're able to walk up and down that. So if you can fix the front stairs, by all means, go ahead. I think I'll have to play around with the terrain tools a little bit more. But, I mean, it looks nice anyway, and they can still get up there via the back staircase. And anyway, so my idea here was just kind of that it's a modern vacation home that has a little bit of a rustic vibe, but it's still quite modern and modular. And my idea for this is I love container homes. I have a weird, bizarre obsession specifically with container homes. Now I know everybody loves tiny homes. I love them too, but container homes, I don't know what it is, but it just gets me going. So that's kind of what I was basing this off of, is some of those container homes where they have a smaller container on the bottom and then a longer container on the top. They'll have a 20-foot container and then a 40-foot container on top of it, so that the edge hangs over. And I wanted to give it this sort of floating vibe, which I fell in love with when I was watching a YouTube video from, I believe her name is Kirsten Dirksen. She does a lot of interesting architecture videos. She just goes around the world and interviews people about their, I wouldn't say weird houses, but their interesting choice of housing. Anyway, she did one, I believe she went out to Denmark, I think is where it's at. It's called VIP, V-I-P-P, and it's their shelter that they sell, which is $500,000 for this prefab house. It's nuts. Anyway, the house itself is shaped quite like this, and you can see okay, so you can see through the house, I guess, if that makes sense. The walls are completely windows, sliding window doors, which they said gave it this sort of ethereal, floating in nature kind of a vibe, which I absolutely love. And that's why I have what I'm saying is the back of the house is completely windows, or I mean, if we could do like glass walls, like how we can do glass roofs, I'd be super down to do that, but unfortunately we can't, so just windows pieced together. Oh, excuse me. Anyway, so I wanted it to have again, like that just magical floating in nature vibe, but there are other vacation homes in the area, and even though the dynamic of people being able to see through windows like doesn't really exist in The Sims, like they can't greet each other through the window, they can't see people, like for example, if you had a bathroom that was all windows, like they would still go to the bathroom totally unashamed because there's still technically walls there. Anyway, in my universe, privacy is a dynamic that exists. So I wanted to keep the front windows with light coming through, but have it sort of be not filtered, that's not really quite the right term, but in such a way that light could still pass through, but it would be difficult to see through those windows. And eventually you'll see I actually put some of the lattice that has the ivy growing up it in front of the windows, so to give the effect there's like plants growing up the windows, and so that gives sort of like a natural screen and some privacy. So I initially was just gonna do like a 4-bedroom, but that seemed a little odd and I didn't really like the layout and it just felt weird. And then I was like, oh my god, how are they gonna get up to that deck on the roof? I don't know. So then we put in this little stairway here and a little door to get outside. I actually am now realizing I didn't playtest that, so hopefully they can get up there. And this is just a 3-bedroom, 1 bath kind of a deal. I was I'm flipping the camera back and forth to kind of figure out a layout of sorts, and I figured it would probably be a family coming to stay, so we have like the adults room and then we have the children's room, and I wish we had some better, more plain or simple swatches for that like single canopy bed, because I thought that would have been really cool, but we can't, so here we are. And I wanted to keep everything relatively simple and like not cluttered, because if you've ever been to a vacation home or like a rental-y home type deal, all of the stuff in there is like pretty plain. Like it's a little bit decorated, like they'll have some pictures on the walls and like nightstands and like whatever, but there isn't a lot of personalization, and I kind of wanted to keep that in this build. And I don't know why, usually I put a lot of rugs in builds because I have a thing for rugs, but for some reason I put like 1 rug in this build and it's like in the living area. I don't know. And I also wanted to give them some activities as well. So I put in a bookcase downstairs, and I also will put in an easel, and I also put in, I think it's like the game table or the card table or something. I don't know. It's like Don't Wake the Llama maybe. I don't know. Anyway, it's a game table, and in this like open area upstairs, I actually moved the master bedroom back one little bit and then added in that table with some chairs and stuff so they could like go upstairs and listen to some music and like play games and stuff. And I just wanted to keep it relatively like group activity oriented, just because anytime I feel like I've gone on vacation or we've gone and like camped somewhere or whatever, we usually, I mean, for the most part, I don't know if this is abnormal, I'm assuming it's relatively normal, but just keeping everything really like group oriented, like sitting around a fire or playing card games or dice games or board games or whatever, so that everybody is involved and together and I wanted to keep it like that here. I didn't want to do too many things where maybe your sim could just go off and be alone, and then they would just be like no contact. But I figured if I added in like TV and the game guy, then maybe they would feel more inclined to like hang out together. I also did not add a dining table, and that's mostly because there wasn't a lot of room, and originally I hadn't intended to put like children's rooms in here. I thought this would have been a more romantic getaway, so I just completely forgot about that and just went straight into family vacation home. So there's only those 2 bar stools, but there is the living room area, or they could come upstairs, or they could like go wherever and eat. So unfortunately the eating together thing may not be a thing. But here is the table. I wanted to have some of the wood look a little rustic, so like the floorboards look a little bit worn, and then that table looks a little bit worn, and even those stairs kind of look like maybe they're old, I guess. Like, I don't know, like the style of stairs kind of seems maybe old to me. Anyway, but then there's a lot of like modern furniture. So now we're out here on the deck, and I thought it'd be really nice to do like yoga or some meditation up here because it's just so beautiful. And then I thought, you know what? Why don't we make this like a group space? And again, I didn't play test this, so I don't know if this entirely works. In theory, it should. So we have the grill up here, and I end up changing that table with like a regular table that doesn't have an umbrella, because I felt like the umbrella was very, I don't know, it seemed like it visually took up too much space. And I know that like when I'm playing The Sims, I don't like, I don't know, like the visual to be cut off too much, because there's some items that just like don't disappear and they're literally just in your way while you're playing, and it's really annoying. So I end up taking that out and just replacing it with a table and chairs, and I add in some lights up there. It's really nice. I really like it. The view is great. So here are the stairs, and I played around with this, and I think that's maybe why it's not routable. I don't know. I'll just need some more practice. I kind of liked the idea of it being a little bit, I don't know, like, I guess worn is the only word I can think of, but like maybe the steps and like the stone and stuff is deteriorating a little bit, so it's like it's like a rocky path, and it's ooh, excuse me, missing some of the slabs of concrete or whatever, the stones that they put up there to walk on. And it's like the property itself, I imagined to have been like updated, but maybe is still old, like they're in the process of updating certain things. And then I also wanted to add in a sauna. So I love saunas. I think they're great. I don't often get to be in a sauna. Oh, I was just checking the view real quick. And to me, a sauna seems very like vacation and relaxing to me. So that's what we've got going on here. I wanted to make sure the lights in there weren't too intrusive on the experience. And I just wanted to make sure that, again, all of the big floor to ceiling windows were facing out away from the people and out to the view. Because if you're out in a gorgeous, beautiful forest, why would you not want a gorgeous, beautiful view? And I imagine it'll be great for like screenshots and I don't know, like just nice ambiance. And I did some landscaping. I didn't get too wild and too crazy. Like, whenever I think of being in a forest, as some of you may or may not know, I am from Oregon. And Oregon homes one of the most dense forests, I believe, in America. And with that, my experience of forests are quite dense. So I'm not used to like going into a forest and having like a lot of open space like that, I guess. Like when I think forest, it's like tree. There's just trees everywhere. But I tried to tone it down a little bit, tried not to get too carried away, tried to make sure things made sense, like putting the ferns in the shade because they don't like direct sunlight. I also tried to take some of that ivy and make it look like it was crawling up like the tree and stuff. Often other plants will climb up other plants. And I thought maybe that would give it some visual interest. Tried to throw in a few flowers here and there. I didn't want to get too crazy because, again, it's not realistic for a forest, I guess, maybe to be so crazy like that. Also, I wanted it to sort of match the area that it's in. I didn't want it to be too much of a sore thumb, even though with the terrain tools, it's like a sore thumb anyway. You know what I'm saying? Because the whole Sims is based off of flat lots, flat terrain everywhere. So building a hill like this, it just seems like a sore thumb. Also, you can't like paint, like terrain paint the sides, which is kind of a bummer because I feel like that really could have like upped my game, you know? But what can you do? Anyway, again, more landscaping. I just think about, so okay, there's actually one place we vacationed that was partially an inspiration, that was maybe one of my most favorite vacation experiences. We went to a place on the Rogue River when I was growing up, and I believe it was near Grants Pass, and I cannot for the life of me remember what the actual city we stayed in was called. My dad always reminds me all the time, but I can never remember. But I think it was, my parents had rented a room or something in this like big sort of like lodge share house kind of a deal, and something had happened where something got canceled, or they had to like comp my parents something, or I don't know what happened, but we ended up getting like the entire place to ourselves. Like, this place was like 2 stories and it was like massive, so each of us got like a pick of the room we wanted to stay in. And I remember I stayed in this room that had these gorgeous like French doors. We were just out in like the forest, and there was actually a river nearby that we went down and played in, and had like fool's gold in it. Super cool. And it was just like so magical. It's near the Oregon Vortex. I want to say Gold Hill is where the Oregon Vortex is, so it's like somewhere in that area, but it was really, really gorgeous, and I had one of the best times there. And it had a very 90s vibe to it, if you know what I'm saying. Like, oh god, like that dusty blue, I feel like was a color, and it's just like that weird old furniture. I mean, you know what I'm saying. It's like, I don't think specifically it had this pattern, but the vibe my memory has is like that big rose print, or like floral print on the couch kind of a vibe. That's like what this place was like, but it was just absolutely the best time. And I think we even played like cards or board games or something because they had that stuff there. So it was really cool. And I think they even had maybe a fireplace, so maybe this place was more heavily inspired by that than I realized. Anyways, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this build. We're just about at the screenshots. I'm sorry the castle build didn't come out. I am currently working on it. Hopefully I can get it out for you next Saturday. Crossing my fingers, it shouldn't be a problem, but no promises. I just started a new job. It's a whole thing. Anyways, you guys, again, I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks so much for hanging out and tolerating my rambling. I appreciate you guys so much, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.